guys, today we're gonna be making our chocolate chip cookies. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my KitchenAid set up. So our KitchenAid mixers, this is your first time using it. First thing is we have our bowl. To attach and detach our bowl, we're going to take our bowl and we are going to spin it into place. Once I spin it into place, it should not move, okay? The next thing is our locking mechanism. So if I push the lock to the side, it doesn't come up. If I unlock it, I'm able to go up and down. You want to make sure they have this is for different attachments, like a pasta attachment or an ice cream attachment. If you have one of those at home, you just want to make sure that's twisted in so this doesn't fall off while you're baking. Okay, on the other side, you have your speeds. We'll talk about what we're going to use as we go on through the day. But we are going to be starting off using our paddle attachment. A paddle attachment is used to cream, butter, and sugar. That's one of the main things that we're doing today. So I have to twist my paddle attachment on. There is a knob on the side of my KitchenAid attachment, and there is a knob that is open on my paddle attachment. I line those two things up. Once I twist them into place, you can kind of see that there's the knob locking in. It doesn't come off. To get it off, I push up and I twist the opposite way that I twisted on. Okay. So to get us started, I'm going to look at my recipe. It says we're going to cream together our butter and our sugar. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I have 6 tablespoons of butter, which remember there's 8 tablespoons in a cup. So you will need to cut 2 tablespoons off or your teacher will have that done for you. So I'm gonna put in my butter to start, and then I have my granulated sugar and my brown sugar. So that is one thing that people get really confused about when we go through this. Granulated sugar is white sugar. So I'm going to take 1/3 cup of white sugar, and remember I'm going to scoop in, overfill, level off. So that is my first one. And then for my brown sugar, I'm going to be using a 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons. So if you remember, with brown sugar, we need to pat our brown sugar down. That means that there's no air bubbles. You want to think of it like a sandcastle so that we don't have any. I'm going to be doing my 4th cup of brown sugar. So I scoop in. I like to pack in, so you can use your straight edge spatula to do that, or you can use your hands against the side of your container. Do not put your hands in the bowl. So from here, I make sure that I'm nice and leveled off. I should be packed in, should come out like a sandcastle. I did 2 tablespoons of brown sugar as well. And then from there, I'm going to cream together my brown sugar and my white sugar and my butter. So I already have my paddle attachment set. I'm going to put this down in here, and I'm going to go for speed like 6 or 8. Okay, starting at speed 2, you can see it's going pretty slow. I want to be up so that it is creaming together my butter and my sugar. It's going to take us about a minute, maybe 2, to get everything fully combined. My sugar are creamed together. So if I were to take out a spoonful of this and show you, you cannot tell the difference between brown sugar, white sugar, and butter. Okay, so I go ahead and my next ingredients that I'm going to add are my vanilla and my eggs. So if you remember, my vanilla is purely for flavor. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Vanilla is yummy. Yes, it smells delicious, but you don't want to overpower it. Our next, we are going to do 1 egg. Remember, we crack our egg on the side, not on the side of the bowl, so that no shells get in. Remember, egg is our binding agent. We did sugar for sweetness and tenderness. We did vanilla for flavor. And we have our butter for our tenderness as well. Okay, so I don't really need to go too much on that. I let my vanilla and my egg get combined, and then I'm just gonna scrape the bottom of my bowl so that everything is combined, just because that paddle attachment doesn't reach the bottom of the bowl. So at this point, it's going to look weird and kind of eggy, a little like it's falling apart. That is how it's supposed to look. From here, I'm going to go in with all my dry ingredients. So that's gonna be my flour, my baking soda, and my salt. So let's talk about what each of these things do. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to scoop in, overfill, and level off my flour. And my flour is my structure. If I don't have flour, that means I don't have a cookie. Okay, so I have a cup of flour plus 2 tablespoons, and then I have a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of salt. So I like to do when we mix things together, I like to do them in increments. So, or when we add our dry ingredients. So I'm gonna add in my salt, and I'm going to add in my baking soda at the same time. So I have a teaspoon of salt. Salt is for flavor. And then after that, I'm going to do my 1/2 teaspoon a baking soda. Baking soda is my leavening agent. It means that it's going to make my cookies rise nice, light, and fluffy. So again, I'm going to level that off, put those in. When I said I like to do increments of my flour, if I put all my flour in, it's going to go poof in my face. So I'm gonna go about a half a cup of my flour. I'm gonna let that mix all together, then I'm gonna add in my next amounts of flour. While this is starting to mix together, you can see I'm only doing a speed like 4. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure those last 2 tablespoons of flour that I need to add in. And now, while I'm finishing this recipe up, you might be doing an experiment that goes along with this. So you might be adding in potentially all brown sugar instead of white sugar. You might be adding baking powder instead of baking soda. So that's up to your teachers. They will be kind of walking you through how to do those. So just be mindful your recipe might be a little different. So as soon as my flour is fully combined, I'm going to add in that rest of my flour. If you let your flour fully mix in and then let it mix for another minute and then add more flour, you're going to over mix your cookies and it could make them more liquidy and maybe not the best. So my flour is all gone. I'm gonna stop that and I'm gonna get ready for my chocolate chips. So I'm gonna add in a half cup of chocolate chips. We do not overfill and we do not take more than a half a cup of chocolate chips, because if you take more, how does the person after you get chocolate chips? I do this really quick, once or twice, speed it up, and I take off. Now, I'm gonna scrape my sides, and the last thing to do with these cookies is that we are going to portion scoop them with our purple portion scoop, and you can see my bowl's really on there. So you can see I have this nice flaky, not flaky, this nice mixture. I'm gonna go ahead now and I'm going to use my purple portion scoop. I'm going to get my piece of parchment paper, put it on top of my cookie pan, and from here I'm going to scoop and plop about, you should get anywhere between 12 to 18 cookies depending on your recipe. From here you would put your cookies in the oven at 350 for about anywhere between 8 to 12 minutes depending. So I pulled my cookies out of the oven. Here's a couple things, a couple tips. My edges are golden brown and my centers still look like they might be a little bit doughy. If I leave them on my pan, they're gonna continue to bake and then I'm gonna have light, chewy cookies. So you just wanna make sure you're paying attention to the time in the oven. The more golden they become, the crunchier they'll become once they're finished cooling.